But let's go ahead and talk about some college football playoffs implications.
Yeah.
So obviously this game is important because Clemson loses. Clemson was the number 1 seed. You dropped to 4 in both coaches and AP.
Yeah.
If we had it up to some other people, I'm sure they would be lower than that. But
people are stupid.
People are stupid. We know how this works. But right now you have Alabama at number 1.
Deservingly
Notre
so.
Dame goes to number 2. Ohio State, I'm assuming Ohio State goes to number 3 solely because they've only played 2 games. I think if they played more games, they would be still at number 2 spot. And in number 4, you have Clemson rounding that out. But we have some players behind them. Of course, Georgia loses in that 5 spot. I believe Texas A&M is in the 5th spot now. You're going to have, I think Florida's right behind them at 6, and you have BYU at 7. Now, let's talk about this in Cincinnati at 8. Let's talk about this because this is how this is going to shape up. Of course, Clemson losing to Notre Dame head-to-head in the first game is always going to have Notre Dame ahead of them. But the best case scenario is you go 500 against Notre Dame. You go and beat them in the ACC championship, handle your business. Clemson could get into the playoffs. I don't think there's any issue with that. Clemson loses from now through the ACC championship game. Well, if you lose now, if you lose any other game in this regular season, you're done.
Yeah.
I don't think we see that considering Clemson's going to be playing Florida State, Pitt, and Virginia Tech. I think those are 3 winnable games.
I think that Clemson should, I don't want to say cruise because these last 3 weeks have been shaky.
That's what I was talking about earlier.
Clemson should not be cruising, but if they lose to Florida State, I hope we don't make the playoffs. That would be so undeserved. Like, they are just they're the gutter of the ACC.
Yeah, and
right
they have a lot of mental issues to go through right now. Florida State's trying to retool. They're already talking about firing Coach Norvell. So Clemson should be fine. So you control your destiny at number 4. You win out, you're good, right? Notre Dame, number 2 spot. They have a considerably tougher schedule going forward.
Yeah.
They have 2 games that I believe that could be a potential trap game. That's Boston College and North Carolina. Boston College, not so much because Boston College is on Notre Dame's level, but because you're still riding that high of the Clemson game. And one little sneaky fact that I want to talk about is the fact that their fans rushed the field after the win. Now, Notre Dame did get their test results, I believe, about an hour or 2 ago. Now, whether Brian Kelly's going to let everybody know tonight, which is Tuesday, November 10th, or sometime before Saturday, they could have some players missing. You have some players missing going up against a hungry Boston College team. I don't know. We'll see. Then also the advent of going to North Carolina, a team that's built offensively kind of like Clemson. They can score a lot of points when everything's going right. I think North Carolina can definitely run the ball. I think their offensive line might actually be better than Clemson's. But 2 games that are tough for Notre Dame. But if I'm being objective, I think Notre Dame wins out. So I think you have an undefeated Notre Dame versus a 1-loss Clemson. Their 1 loss to Notre Dame. That can cancel each other out. I think Alabama's going to run the table. I think they're not going to get beaten by anyone. Of course, the game this weekend against LSU was canceled because they didn't want to see that bloodbath. And, I don't think anything. I think they stay at number 1. They go from now to the end at number 1 spot.
It's more than deserved
right.
for them to say the number. I mean, they're the best team in the country right now.
That's right.
There's no disputing it.
For Ohio State, they're kind of the enigma. So I don't think their toughest test.
It's because they started late.
Well,
they're weird.
Well, and their toughest, but they're going to have enough games to be able to qualify them. So
Indiana.
The Pac-12 is going to be out. They're only playing like 6 or 7 games. It's not enough time for them to play. Big 12 is pretty much eliminated. I think Oklahoma State losing really hurt the conferences in general. But maybe they have a backdoor chance of getting in. I don't know. But for honestly speaking, Alabama's not losing to anybody.
Let me pitch you a scenario. So let's say Oregon, USC, one of these random Pac-12 teams goes undefeated, and
they won't have it. Oregon won't play a ranked team until the Pac-12 championship.
So you don't think that they have any chance, even if let's say the most viable candidate is a 2-loss Clemson. Let's say Clemson loses to Notre Dame again, but you have an undefeated Oregon sitting there that's a Pac-12 champ.
So I don't think that's going to work out because I still think there's some enigma teams behind that. So again, let's talk about.
So you think Cincy, BYU, these type of teams have a stronger case than a Pac-12
Absolutely.
team?
There's going to be 3 teams that have a better chance. So if Florida wins out,
that's true.
You have this scenario. If Florida beats Alabama in the SEC championship game, Alabama's going to drop. You have a potential of Ohio State being number 1. We'll talk about that shuffling a little bit. But then you also have the advent of Alabama also getting in because they went to the wire undefeated until the SEC championship. we're already looking at them as either the number 1, 2, or 3 best team in the country. It's just one of those deals where they're going to get in. They're going to get in. Then you're talking about a Clemson. If they beat Notre Dame, is going to get in. And then you're talking about a Notre Dame who, if they play another tight game against Clemson in a loss, you're 500, they're in. But that's contingent on Florida beating Alabama. Now, let's say status quo, Alabama beats Florida in the SEC championship game. Let's say that Ohio State doesn't get beat by anyone. I still don't think they jump Alabama.
It's Bama and Ohio State.
It's Bama and Ohio State, number 1 and 2. Okay. Number 3, I think in that scenario, if Clemson beats Notre Dame,
I think it'll be Clemson.
They'll be Clemson number 3,
and Notre Dame at
and
number
then
4.
well, Notre Dame could be at number 4 because they have a better resume than some of the other schools. Now,
so do you think? Okay, so this is the real question. Do you think Cincy or BYU gets the pivot over Notre Dame?
I would rather. And
I would rather see them.
Texas A&M is going to get a chance,
dude.
Over yes. Dude. Listen, let me tell you, and I know you've wanted to deny this all year, but this is serious brass tacks. Texas A&M runs the table. From what I've seen so far of Texas A&M, nobody left on their schedule is going to beat them. Nobody. All right. So they're playing better offense and defense now. They're clicking. They have that one win over Florida. Right now, that looks like a great win because Florida just throttled Georgia. And I know Georgia had some guys out defensively, most notably Richard LeCount. But they put up 41 points against that Georgia defense. Now, Florida, let's say Florida gets to the situation where they go and they play a great game against Alabama, but they get beat. Texas A&M did not lose to anyone else. Texas A&M could sneak in at the 4 spot because they have a better win than a lot of other schools. Now, I know a lot of people are going to say, well, how do they have a better win than Notre Dame?
They will not get to the championship game, though.
They will not, but it doesn't matter because we've seen this before.
So are we talking this is a Georgia scenario where they still get in?
This is an Alabama situation. Or this is an Alabama scenario. Where Alabama gets in.
They got in over Ohio State that year.
That's right. So Texas A&M does have a backdoor chance to get in. That's contingent on them running the table, Florida going again in the SEC championship, assuming they don't get beat by anyone else in the SEC West. I don't think that's happening. So let me pitch you
another scenario. One loss Texas A&M or 2 loss Clemson with 2 losses to Notre Dame.
In that situation, I think that Texas A&M gets over Clemson.
Wow.
And the reason why is because, again, they have that one win over Florida, a team that played in the SEC championship. And their only loss would be to
number 1.
Twice. So I don't know that Texas A&M, and now it's a strange thing to talk about Texas A&M because Texas A&M got throttled by Alabama. It was bad, but
they also almost lost to Vanderbilt.
They did, but we ended up almost losing to BC. It goes back and forth. The problem is when you start muddling, then you really start to have to get granular with it because then you're thinking about teams like Cincinnati and BYU. I honestly think that BYU has more leg to stand on because I feel like their offense is better than Cincinnati.
Why is that? Cincinnati has multiple ranked wins already.
They do. They've already beaten Memphis.
The committee is going to value strength of schedule more than they're going to value the eye test. Maybe it might be better for the ratings because Zach Wilson, they've got the eye candy. They throw
but Desmond
the ball.
Ritter's playing good football
exactly.
too.
Cincy has a better chance than BYU in my opinion.
I'll concede that. I say either or because I think right now them showing you that BYU being ahead of Cincinnati is where they think.
That's stupid to me. That's really stupid to me.
But that's just kind of where they have it right now.
We saw what Cincy did to SMU 2 weeks ago, and they just went and they killed Houston too.
That's true. But I will say this: BYU has destroyed everybody. So,
dude, they beat UTEP by 2 points in OT. That team, I refuse to. Listen,
know.
I love Zach. Okay, we talked about Zach before the year. Zach is a great player. That team is not playoff level. Cincy has more talent around their quarterback than BYU does, and it's not even close.
We got Bobby Mahiran I think I said it right, in the comment section. He goes, what about Coastal? Coastal has a chance, but right now they don't value the Coastal wins. This is why they're still so far back in the rankings.
If I'm not mistaken, Coastal does play Liberty at some point.
They do. They play Liberty at the end of the year, I think.
Coastal needs to beat Liberty and then win their conference, and I think that we might see them get a Big 6 bid, but playoffs.
Yeah, I don't know if they're in the playoffs. I think the highest they could probably get is like 8.
Yeah.
And that's just being objectively speaking.
And they're fun. Don't get me wrong. They're really fun, and they're a great team to watch. They're entertaining and stuff, but the committees just would never go for that. If we had an 18 playoff, sure.
Yeah, well, we've been asking for it, and we'll see. But I think that right now the teams that are in play for it, I think 1, 2 are solid.
Bama and Ohio State.
Well, 1, 3 are solid. I think Alabama's going to run the table. I think Ohio State's going to run the table. I would have felt a little bit different if Penn State didn't start 0-3, but getting throttled by Maryland, they got toyed with Maryland. I'm going to have to go cold on anybody beating Ohio State. Maybe Indiana, but I feel like Indiana's playing above their actual ability right now. But we talked about Indiana.
I feel like Indiana's got a really gimmicky offense.
They do.
Won't hold up
and their coordinators are actually younger than me, which is weird. Both their offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator are younger than me. So it just feels weird. But those guys with Michael Penix have been playing better. Freifogel looks like a top 10 receiver in college football.
Oh, I love Indiana. It's just they can't.
But
hang.
I don't know. They can't hang with Ohio State.
They don't have the talent to hang.
Now they have given Ohio State some trouble in the past, but I think now I don't know that.
In theory, we could get that Purdue game. Ohio State just comes out and lays an egg.
Maybe.
But that doesn't see. I think this team is a lot better than that.
I do too. I think Ohio State. Now Ohio State, the score of the game this past weekend with Rutgers looks a little weird because they started taking their starters out and the backup guys did concede a little bit of points and yardage to Rutgers.
It's a Clemson game, pretty much.
It's
Clemson,
they keep
Virginia.
the starters in, Ryan Day would have been apologizing for scoring 300 again. So, again, I think the top two teams right now in the country are Alabama and Ohio State. I think Clemson's there, but right now with their injuries and the way things are trending, I do not think that they are right this moment on those two teams' level. Now, if they get healthy again, I'm changing my opinion. We talked about this.
Listen, if Clemson gets healthy and they beat Notre Dame and get in that playoff, they're going to be my championship.
Way up. I think so too. I still think that they could get winning the championship. I don't know. I'll say, just being unbiased, I think that they could win or lose the national championship. But that is something we want to talk about, and we'll pivot into that right now. So if, let's say, things hold serve. And I know a lot of people have been talking about, but what if Clemson ends up playing Notre Dame in the ACC championship and then they both get in the playoff and play again? How would that happen? First and foremost.
Well, okay, theoretically, it would take an Ohio State or an Alabama loss.
But we don't see that.
Well, okay, let's just throw this out there. What if Alabama loses to Florida, right? We were talking about it. So if Alabama loses to Florida,
Ohio State goes one.
Then Notre Dame wouldn't even get in.
Okay, but that's my point.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter. So
there's no way. There's no way to get a 2-3 or the only way would be for number one would be Notre Dame to get the 1 seed, which isn't going to happen.
Which means they have to beat Clemson. Which means Clemson's not getting in.
Yeah, so there's
no way they're going to play back to back.
There's no path for that to happen. The only way I could even theoretically see it would be Ohio State drops a game.
Yeah.
That's the only way. It's if Ohio State drops a game and then they win the conference, but I still think they would put them over Notre Dame at the 3, and then Notre Dame would play Alabama.
And so that's why I feel like when you're doing that, you're doing too much. We're just trying to come up with crazy scenarios.
That's not going to happen. There's really good chance Notre Dame and Clemson both get in.
Yeah.
Little to no chance they play each other.
Because I think if Clemson beats Notre Dame and they jump Notre Dame, just because Clemson would have that last loss.
Yeah, if Clemson beats Notre Dame, then they're at the minimum 3 seed.
They're at the minimum 3 seed. I think Notre Dame will get in at 4.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. If I'm a Clemson fan, when we were at number 1, you felt great about it because, hey, you're going to play that number 4 team. It could be BYU. It could be Texas A&M. It could be any of these other schools. You felt confident about that. I still feel like
Clemson's going to get Ohio State or Bama now.
That's right. And I feel like on a neutral field, Clemson healthy, you're going to beat Notre Dame. You're going to beat Texas A&M. You would beat Florida. But right now, that Clemson team that we saw Saturday with all those injuries, Texas A&M could beat them. I think that Florida would have beaten them that night. Yeah. But, again, those are hypotheticals because it didn't happen. But Clemson getting in at 3, you're likely going to play Ohio State or Alabama. And I do not like that matchup as we're talking this moment.
Yeah, and it's concerning. I know the Clemson fan base is probably feeling stupidly confident because 4-0 against Ohio State.
But see, that's the same thing that we had with Notre Dame. We thought it's Notre Dame was going to beat them out.
We're seeing this year, Clemson is not invincible, people.
No.
Like it is a definite possibility that these teams are better than Clemson, and they've shown that.
Look, we talked about how Notre Dame had this game circled for Clemson for 2 years.
You think Ohio
State's going to be any less angry?
They've got it circled. They've got it starred. They've got it red.
It's in the locker room. Ryan Day is telling people about it.
They've got it hung up in the locker room.
Yeah, they want Clemson. And then if you think about it, you also don't get any any vouchers from Alabama. The last time you played Alabama, it was a 28-point win.
Yeah.
So they are going to come back at you too.
This is what you get as a result of being good.
The best
you beat
case,
everyone else
look,
good, and now they're all mad at you.
I'm not scared to play any team. I feel confident that Clemson can go in and hold their own if they're healthy against any of the teams in the country. Clemson is elite. But right now, I think that if we're going into this saying, oh, yeah, you will definitely beat them, you're short-sighted, and that's just fandom. But again, you're a fan. You can think whatever you want to think. I'm just trying to keep you from being utterly disappointed if you lose. I think a lot of people are okay with losing to Notre Dame just because it was like, hey, we'll get a chance to play them again, yada, yada, yada. In the playoffs, you don't get a chance to play again. You're done, right?
It's annoying.
So I think a lot of people had, and of course we did on this show too, we talked about Clemson being a national champion in 2020, 2021. And I'm not saying that this is a bridge year. I think I saw some kind of article saying that instead of a national championship year this year, this is more like a bridge year. I'm not quite ready to say that.
I don't think that's the case.
But I will say with the deficiencies right now, looking at Ohio State, Ohio State has some deficiencies too because they're not very vertical. They do a lot of things horizontally and they rely on Justin Fields a little too much right now. I still think they are tough to beat. I think Alabama right now, because they are so vertical with Devontae, and even without Jalen Waddle, Mac Jones is killing it. You have Najee Harris, all those running backs. It's kind of hard. Now, I feel like their defense still isn't quite where it needs to be, like championship level yet.
Alabama reminds me of LSU last
calling Caleb
year.
Black, Clemson's isn't either.
Like, seriously, Alabama reminds me a lot of LSU last year. That's concerning.
Now, yeah, they do. They do.
Because their defense it's bad right now, but it's trending upwards. Their offense, you lose a couple guys and you're still killing it.
Well, I was going to say, I think the ceiling for the floor for Alabama scoring for the rest of this year is about 40 points.
Yeah.
They're going to put 40, 50 on everybody they play, and that's including Clemson fans. If we go out there and play Alabama, you're going to have to outscore them.
You cannot.
Ohio State fans, too, you're going to have to outscore Alabama.
You can't stop Mac Jones in that offense right now. You just can't.
I think Ohio State's defense is probably the most solid next to Notre Dame. This is why I think Notre Dame has a shot, because their defense is so solid that they can win the games. And if Ian Book can play well, I think they have a shot at winning a playoff game, but not if they're getting that matchup with Alabama.
I think the nightmare scenario for Notre Dame is the Alabama matchup because they're so vertical and those corners are slow. We saw Cornell Powell and Amari Rodgers beating those guys on. Those corners are objectively slow, and I think, man, with Waddle, it would have gotten really ugly even without Waddle. I think Alabama is able to stretch that defense.
And look, no disrespect to Bracey and McLeod, but those guys just aren't. They are not on the level of their linebackers, their D-line, or their safeties. Those guys are literally very good. Drew comes in. I'm looking at Drew's in the back. He's our control guy. He says Sean Wade is a liability at corner. I don't know about that. He was the game changer for Ohio State when he went out of the game after that targeting call against Trevor, which was idiotic.
Bad call.
That was a terrible call. I'm a Clemson fan. I'll go ahead and say that was a bad call.
Fumble call was bad too.
Yeah, well, now we're seeing the result of it because it's like, all right, well, that was not a fumble for Justin Ross, but it was a fumble for Amari Rodgers. The same move. He made a football move, took a couple steps. It is what it is. Whatever.
Sometimes you get the break.
Sometimes you get the break. Sometimes you don't. This is why I'm going to be probably the only person on sports radio or talk, whatever, that is not going to talk about refs whatsoever. I don't care. Clemson had a shot to win the game with 2 minutes left, and you just bungle it up. I don't want to hear anything about
Clemson was
the
leading.
refs.
If you're talking about the refs, Clemson was leading the game with 2 minutes left with the ball on first down. There's zero excuse to lose that game.
Yeah.
If you're the best team in the country, you don't lose that game.
Yeah. So I don't want to hear anything about that. But again, let's go back to these matchups. I think right now, if all things hold serve, I do think the ACC gets two teams in, which says a lot about the ACC. Notre Dame needs to join.
It says a lot about the worst conference.
Yeah,
hey, you know what that means? It just means more in the ACC. It just means more.
But I will not. I do want to make sure that we understand that there is a playoff path for a couple of teams, and I think Texas A&M. I think Florida has a shot. I think BYU and Cincy actually legitimately have a shot. Whether they can compete or not, I don't know. But I think if any year, this would be a good year for them to have a shot to get in. But I think, honestly, at this moment, November 10th, 2020, we could be wrong as bad as we were last week. I think it holds serve. I think Clemson wins the rematch. I think Alabama runs the table. I think Ohio State runs the table. Your number one team will be Alabama. They'll play Notre Dame. They'll get the choice of where they play. Clemson's going to play Ohio State. That's going to suck, but you got to do what you got to do. And then, that's going to be your top 4. I think 5 rounded out would be – I'm going to go ahead and say I think 5 stays with Texas A&M. I don't see a path if they run the table, especially with that Florida win.
So
I don't see a path for BYU or Cincinnati.
You don't think Cincy or BYU would jump Texas A&M?
I don't think so. And we're talking about vying for New Year's 6 bowls. Everybody's going to get to go to a bowl. Florida State will get to go to a bowl this year, so it doesn't really matter.
I hope they win a bowl game.
the doo-doo bowl.
We need all the ACC bowl game wins for the agenda. We can call the ACC the powerhouse of the country.
Oh my God!
You go 9-3.
We are the mitochondria.
You go on 9-3 on bowl weekend. You got two play. Can you imagine if Notre Dame and Clemson match up in the national title game again?
Oh my God, that'd be very dumb.
Yeah,
that would be very dumb.
It's just a mighty ACC, man.
Again, I think right now the playoff. I think there's only 7 teams that could actually make the playoffs right now. That's it. I don't think there's. Yeah. We've had years before where there was a lot of debates, even out through the 10s. USC, Penn State. You had UCF. You had Auburn, Georgia.
It's Bama. It's Ohio State. It's Clemson. It's Notre Dame. It's BYU, Cincy, and Florida. Those are the only teams that can make it.
Well, Texas A&M, just because again, Texas A&M has that win over Florida. While I think there's a lot of things that need to happen for Texas A&M to actually get there. Again, Florida needs to beat Alabama. It needs to lose to Alabama. I also think that Clemson needs to lose. I also think that they have to. Their defense has been playing lights out. Their offense, Kellermond. Why is it that the quarterbacks that we've been talking about look so good this past weekend? Kellermond looked like a Heisman contender. So did Ian Book. What happened?
Listen, you could put me out there against that South Carolina defense. I'm getting my numbers.
I don't know about that, man. I will say this: South Carolina did. I feel like they gave up. They gave up.
Terrible.
They threw in the towel.
They
They're
kicked
like
the field
LSU,
goal down like 8 scores again.
Yeah, they're done. But I do think that South Carolina should run with Ryan Helinski going forward. I think Colin Hill, you tip your hat to him. Thank you for everything he's done. But Ryan Helinski is going to help you.
That Mike Bobo
in the
offense
future.
is hitting different right now.
Oh my gosh,
Back-to-back stinkers for the Gamecocks.